America is the greatest equalizer when it comes to work because you have to pay bills.
Yes.
So it didn't matter what job you were doing
No.
because you had to put food on the table.
Yeah.
Correct.
And I'm sure for you, Mom, you're already supporting your kids back at home. When you think about our education system,
Yeah.
we're taught about you have to be a doctor, an engineer, a lawyer.
Yes.
No one tells you about kazi ya mkono.
Yes.
Yes.
And kazi ya mkono
Is
is
looked
what
down upon.
is looked down upon, but that's what has built America.
Yes.
That's what has got everybody where we are today.
Right.
In fact, I was saying, if I know what I know now, I would be very happy going back to what's it
Trade
called?
school.
Trade school.
Yeah.
Polytechnic. Like, I think all parents should take their kids to trade school.
Yeah.
Learn a
something.
skill.
A
Yeah.
skill.
Welcome to this edition of The African. This is where we talk about our lives, our cultures, our stories, and this is our voices. Welcome all of you. This is wonderful having you here today and telling us this story about how you got into being an Uber driver.
I had just finished, I'd come back from Kenya 2019 in January and been home for vacation and walked into the office and everybody seemed to have 5 billion problems and everybody ascended at my desk and I just woke up and I was like, enough is enough. And I decided, I didn't think much. I had had a conversation with God and I was like, I'm going to quit this job. I don't know. I'd not looked for a job. I'd not done anything. So I quit my job February 7th.
That is a very scary
Yes.
time. When you have to make the decision that I need to leave
I know.
this job.
I didn't even, at least even if you talk to somebody, at least call somebody, you're like, hey, I'm bothered about this. What do you think?
Yeah.
It was just one of those, I woke up and I was like, enough is enough.
You didn't want to keep counseling people.
I didn't want to,
Counselor.
being a counselor. And then I got tired of smiling and people come in and they're like, oh my goodness, I thought this was a fun organization to work for. And I was like, Anyway, so the pandemic happened and everything shut down in March. And then I was like, I was happy. I'm not going to work. I'm at home doing what I had no idea what I wanted to do. And then once the pandemic happened, I started to look at my accounts. Then I'm like, hey, wait a minute. It's a pandemic. I know my parents have not chased me from home, but how am I going to go back home if I cannot afford to pay anything? Sat down. So one of my friends was like, hey, why don't you do Uber? So I was like, okay. Looked up what Uber, what's required. You qualify depending on your car. And then I started driving for Uber.
It was that your car?
Yes, they have to vet your car because your car can't be older than 7 years.
Okay.
Okay.
And then they do a background check because they have to make sure you're
You're
not
not
a
a-
criminal. Yes.
Yes.
You're a good abiding citizen. So they did that. And then make sure you have insurance. And I was given the go ahead. And so you turn on this little app. And so I'm new to all of this. And so
How's the first pickup?
the
very
fast pickup.
fast
So
pickup.
the very fast pickup, because the GPS for Uber is very different from your regular Waze or Google Maps. And I think also back then, I think Apple still had their own GPS, but we had the option of either using Waze or Google Maps, but you're still learning the GPS. And what I didn't like about their GPS at that time was when you turn on the app, and so you can see your car, but it's the opposite direction.
No.
Yeah. And
You're going
Mirror
but
image.
that-
It's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
so normally when you're looking at Waze or Google Maps, your car is facing where you're going.
Yeah.
But now for the Uber, it's facing my direction. So figuring that out and also figuring how to pick up. So we call it a ding when you need to pick up a rider. So first learning to navigate that was still very brand new to me. So you're making a lot of mistakes. And the good thing is at that time, a lot of riders were still very helpful. So, they could teach you like, you missed your turn or you need to stop here. So that was easy. Then now once I got a hang of that, of course, the first week, if you love driving, I love driving. The first week, you're so tired, your whole body, even your eyelashes are shaking with pain. Because you've been sitting for maybe you've been sitting.
Stuff.
Yes.
Because I did delivery.
Oh, really?
My first job was delivery, parcel delivery. And,
And it was different back then.
it was different.
was no GPS.
There was no GPS. We used the map, this big map, so you coordinate this
Grand
waiting,
McNally.
Thank you.
Yes.
Exactly. And you have to look at the coordinates. And so one thing that it teaches you, I think you may agree with this, is that you develop a very good sense of direction.
Yes.
So for me, even if I go to a new city right now and I'm not using map, so long as I know that I'm facing north, east, I find those directions first.
Yes.
Because I know so long as I'm going towards the side, I may veer off a little bit, but you find it.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
And actually, what even helped, even before GPS came, it used to be called TomTom. I remember
TomTom. Yes.
was it MapQuest?
MapQuest, yes.
Yes,
there
there was
was
MapQuest, and then
Yes.
TomTom was kind of one of those usurpers of MapQuest. If
Yes.
I'm not wrong.
MapQuest was the best learning for me because my cousin taught me always read the directions in advance.
Okay.
Yes.
So the one thing that I learned, I could actually gauge if I've gone a mile, 3 miles.
Yeah.
So I never even had to turn on the GPS, but I know where all of my exits were.
Yeah.
So many people, even when I drive, they're like, I can't hear where you're going, but I'm like, I've already looked at all of the directions. And that was I found, to me, it was easier that way.
Yeah.
So, but
Instead
that
of
was
waiting for
That was
turn left.
for your aunt
Yeah.
to talk.
Yes.
I'm sitting here and I'm wondering, as a mother of dolls, and I'm saying, weren't you scared? I mean, you had the courage, but you're driving at night. Aren't you scared? The drunkards at night. Did you?
So, because it was the pandemic, I honestly, I've always operated life with an open mind. So that was easy. So it was a no-brainer. But I left the house every day by the grace of God. I knew
Because you had to do what you had to do.
yes.
That's
And when you look at the safety of thanks to technology, there's a lot of ways they would find if I was to get into any trouble.
yeah.
They have there's they call it like a panic button or a 99119 or something. I can't remember the number. And you would always call it, or they would always reach out to us. You look like you've been stopped at a certain place for a long time. Are you okay? Are you safe? And we always you could notify any of your family members. So they also had the GPS on their phones. So they would always know where I'm going.
Wow, that's interesting.
I feel like I want to jump on that.
Yeah.
One of the things I love about the U.S. mindset towards work is, for the most part, let's say for the most part, work is work.
Yes.
And so one of the things that I discovered a lot with my friends, I had a very good friend who at the time was she was a publicist. She was doing really well and she had issues with her job. And so she quit her job. And I said, oh, so do you have another publicist job lined up? And she said, no, not yet. But in the meantime, I'm going to work at Walmart, or I'm going to go to a supermarket, or because for her, the whole point was, I'm just going to work.
Right.
If the money's coming in, you can call me super publicist,
Yeah.
or you can call me whatever. I will do the work that needs to be done.
Right.
And so I have
It's all
to say
green.
it's
The
all
income
green.
is all green. Yeah.
And I do remember when my sister told me, hey, Dyer is driving an Uber. I was like, driving an Uber? And I was like, oh,
Okay.
well,
Okay.
okay.
She's still working.
Yeah.
She's not
She's
doing
still working.
nothing. Yeah.
I remember when I first came here in college,
Yeah.
and I was working on my MBA in Boston, and I went to be a concierge, which is kind of security. And I'm telling my kids I'm going to work on this job, and they're thinking about watching. And they're like, please, mom, don't be a watchy. Please don't be a watchy. She went, I wasn't a watchy. I'm wearing a nice uniform, sitting behind in a
desk.
building.
Yeah.
And I'll
In
do
air
my
conditioning.
computer. I'll
Yes.
do my homework there
Yeah.
and open doors, just buzz people in. But for them, it was like, you are a watchman.
And don't you find it so interesting? And going back to Sarah and also your statement, what I like about America is, as long as America is the greatest equalizer when it comes to work because you have to pay bills.
Yes.
So you learn, you have to work.
Yes.
So it didn't matter what job you were doing
No.
because you had to put food on the table.
Yeah.
Correct.
And I'm sure for you, Mom, you're already supporting your kids back at home. So you had to make it
A lot
work.
of other people, not just
Yes. Oh, yes. But
You're the rich,
you're the rich auntie.
Fancy.
But what I find interesting is how, because when you think about our education system,
Yeah.
we're taught about you have to be a doctor, an engineer, a lawyer.
Yes.
No one tells you about kazi ya mkono.
Yes.
Yes.
And kazi ya mkono
Is
is
looked
what
down upon.
is looked down upon, but that's what has built America.
Yes.
That's what has got everybody where we are today.
Right.
In fact, I was saying, if I know what I know now, I would be very happy going back to what's it
Trade
called?
school.
Trade school.
Yeah.
Polytechnic. Like, I think all parents should take their kids to trade school.
Yeah.
Learn a
something.
skill.
A
Yeah.
skill.
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead, be a doctor, be all of those,
Yeah.
but know a skill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
But it takes a while. It takes a while to have that mindset.
Yeah.
Because I remember when I first came to the US, like in the early 80s, when my kids were toddlers, and I went to clean a dorm.
oh,
I was mortified. My pride was so it was not just my knees that hurt on my back.
Yeah.
It was
The
my
pride.
pride.
Yeah.
I had come from Kenya. I have 2 house girls.
Alliance Girls
Alliance
Graduate.
Girl.
throw that in.
What was I doing?
Yeah. And you had a good job.
And yeah,
We
but
know.
now, I mean, when I came back as a grown up, now to go to school, it's different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to work, and work is work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Agree.
interesting also, looking at because I've been doing a lot of consulting in the last year and a half. A lot of small business owners, while you're getting that business going, it's really cool to say, yeah, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a da 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 da. But to be an entrepreneur, you got to pay that internet. You got to. So you will be very happy to work in the grocery store,
Yeah.
to do whatever, especially if you can get a job which doesn't take brain cells,
Yeah.
so that you can do. I know a lot of I know a lot of people who actually not did Uber, but who've done DoorDash
Yeah.
or whatever.
While you're
because
building
it's
your
like,
business.
while I'm building my business, like there is an honor in work.
This-
There's an honor in work. I do remember one senior pastor of ours who once came to the US on sabbatical or to do something. And then we heard that he had been driving a taxi. And at the time we were like, what?
Yeah.
He's driving a taxi. But then, he had practical considerations. He
Yes.
still had a family to feed. And you can't say, I'm the man of God, I shall not work.
Doesn't put food on the table. Exactly.
Yeah.
So you're now in school, doing your MBA and doing this at the same time.
Yeah.
Being a security guard.
A non-traditional.
And you're like,
That's for sure.
imagine.
But
Come on.
it's still the same. You don't
yeah.
have a uniform and all that. But I mean,
You're a non-traditional student, right?
yeah, I was a non-traditional student.
Correct.
Yeah, that's
So
actually, yes.
fast forward, I was able to go through my school and work, and here I am, 25 years later. Didn't kill me.
It made you
Made you
stronger.
Made me stronger.
Yeah.
I think that's one thing that, for me, in terms of developing character and just appreciating everything else. Because once you've done this kind of work, you will appreciate the people who are doing that work.
Do the work.
Yes.
Because it already puts you in a situation where you're doubting yourself. I remember doing a work that one time I was like a generalist, and one time I'm sitting there and I'm saying, I went to school not to do this, but you're doing it at the same time because you still have to survive.
Yes.
You know? And that's one thing that I think there's a disconnect when we come from home, because from home we've been put up in our minds that you have to be that book person.
You can't even cut your own grass.
You can't even-
You have to pay someone else to cut it for you.
Yeah.
You can't sweep.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
And it's interesting when people are saying, we're laughing with some friends where people used to say, oh, I want to marry a doctor. I want to marry a lawyer. And a friend of mine looks at me and says, I want to marry a mechanic. Do you know the cost of fixing a car? She's like, I want a mechanic, or I want a good contractor who will
Or an
build me a
electrician,
house, or
right?
an
Yes.
electrician.
Exactly.
Like, I'm paying a fortune for
Yeah.
these services.
Yeah.
And so I think it's not just being willing to do work, but honoring all work.
Yes.
All work. And seeing all work as having value.
Absolutely.
So I think that's also the key differentiator. We not only do it because we have to do it,
Right.
we do it because it is honorable to work.
Yeah.
And you have your eye on whatever you have in the future that you're looking at.
Remember
And that-
the story that you always told me about, being in a gun shop.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
In a gun.
I did.
That was your first job?
I did.
No.
No, it wasn't my first job. My first job, I did a couple of jobs. My first point of entry into this country was Los Angeles, and so when I went to school at Santa Monica College, and we had an opportunity. I met somebody there, just looking for work. Because we had the opportunity to work. We were authorized to work 20 hours during the school year, but then summertime we could work for 40 hours.
Oh.
So having that opportunity, and I met somebody in class, and she said, "Oh, we're hiring," So at that point, I felt so great. I was like, "Oh my God, I'm working," and the place was called Beverly Hills Gun Club.
Oh, nice.
So of course you tell anybody about it, and they're like, "Oh my goodness, you're working in Beverly Hills." It was some, back door, something back there. It was a nice opportunity. I learned a lot working there. But yeah, I mean,
So it was an actual gun store?
it was a gun shop and
Gun
a gun
shop.
range, shooting range, and we sold guns. Yeah, we did.
And we
Right
do
to where I
this
think.
because at the same time you're working towards what you want.
Yeah. So they gave us, at that time they could only hire me part-time.
Yeah.
So my other job was working at the movie theater
Oh, even better.
in Hollywood.
So
Yeah.
you just know people at work in Bollywood.
Well, so you get to meet some stars there.
Wow.
It was kind of fun.
And did they give you guys free tickets?
Well, we
Were you allowed
watched the movie.
You watched the movies?
Yeah.
'Cause you-
You're serving popcorn when people are coming in. Once they come in, and then you go in and you can watch the movie for a little bit,
Oh wow.
and then you come out again when it's time for the show to end.
That's
Yeah, but I mean, we value that work because without it, honestly, our lives would have looked so much different.
Sorry.
And so, you come through these opportunities and you value them.
I remember
You learn to appreciate.
being in college at the same time when I landed in Indiana, a small town, Terre Haute, Indiana. And I remember times where the first jobs, again, as we were allowed to work 20 hours at school, one of my jobs was wake up and have the classrooms clean before classes begin.
Wow.
So you're
the janitor.
You're the janitor.
I was just about to say that.
Yes.
You're the janitor.
Yes.
You're sweeping the classes. You're washing the toilets, and then in the morning you're sitting in the same class.
Yep.
So I think it helps us, develop that. First of all, the discipline
Yes.
to stay with what you're doing because you know that you have a bigger option.
I've been here 25 years. I've worked all I can work. I've got all those other jobs, and I have worked my nice jobs. I was hired, first of all, when I left college. I was a director of finance in a K through 8 school, and I worked there 14 years. And then I was laid off in the most, I don't know what to call it, but we had to do some legal letters, okay, for them to pay me. But I got another job, and this was in a college prep school with a military program. I enjoyed that school greatly. I worked for them. It's a high school. I worked for them for 7 years, and I just retired.
All right.
That
Yeah.
now retiring is like, what does retiring look like?
Yes.
When you are you're a U.S. citizen, but you're a Kenyan. I don't want to grow old here.
Yeah.
Okay, because I don't want to go to a nursing home.
Yeah.
Play bingo with us.
But two,
He's hearing you. Right?
I hear you. I hear her. You like to play bingo with us in the nursing home?
I don't mind playing bingo. I have played bingo because I worked in a nursing home at some point.
Oh.
But the problem here, not the problem, but the questions that I'm asking myself here now is, what do I do? This is my first month out. So I kind of am trying to find, I can't even say I'm trying to find myself. I'm still getting over the fact that I don't have to wake up and drive 45 miles to work and then 45 miles back. So 10 hours per week sitting in the car. Apart from that, I'm asking myself, being a Kenyan woman, do you stay here? Do you go? When? But right now I'm thinking, we came here and we worked.
Yes.
All we did is work.
Yes.
The last 7 years, I have driven to that little place, Front Royal.
Yeah.
That's all you've done.
And I've gone, and that it's a very historical, quaint town which was found in the 1800s. But I knew to have a time even to look around or do anything.
Yeah.
So now I'm asking myself, maybe what I should do as I think what to do is see America a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know.
I think that's the way.
Yeah, the other day we
Bravo.
went to Niagara Falls. We had never been there.
Yes.
So that was a bomb.
Yeah.
Really nice. And then, so I'm just thinking like maybe I should travel a little bit.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Why not?
But remember, I don't have a paycheck.
At that paycheck.
So you really you can't just spend the money and know you make it back.
Yes.
Really, so
But by the time you've decided to retire, and you know you're in finance, I'm sure you've done your numbers. I'm sure you've played around with numbers. Come on.
of course.
And can I say, you look good for a mom who's retired. Because, no, this is a question, right?
Amazing.
Yeah. When you really think about retirees, when you think about our parents, you know, like when I'm looking at you, I'm like, when I look at my dad, I'm like, aye. I'm like my grandfather. I'm like, aye. How come you're looking like a spring chicken? Yeah.
No,
But
but
it's interesting.
It is
how
interesting.
it's evolved, how times have evolved.
well, she has kept herself. You know, one of the things is keeping active and keep moving, and
I try.
she does a lot.
Yes, that's right.
So she has a very regimented lifestyle.
Yeah. Plus, I've done other things. I mean, I'm very active in the church.
Yes.
During my education, I also became a chaplain. I'm a spiritual director. I went to school, to seminary,
Yes.
to do that.
Yeah.
So that gives me a lot of interaction
Correct.
with other people, not just working.
Yes.
So maybe I'll go one of those directions after I finish traveling.
No, but you were talking about the traveling. That is a really important thing, because one of the things, you know, your life is not just about work. I think you bring up a very important thing. It's that balance between, you know, working. Well, working, we have to work.
Yeah.
But then what are the other things that give you fulfillment?
Yeah.
And so if it's traveling, then, you know, part of your budget, you have to kind of just build it in.
Okay.
So, and plan it very meticulously, just so you're not blowing, you know, large amounts of money.
It's true.
Yeah, but you can still accomplish some of these things with a good budget and with planning.
If you were to, you know, advise, you know, those Africans that are looking at this show and thinking, what do I need to do?
What I found out as a finance director working in schools is that when people are very young, they don't want to put money away. And you tell them, come on, just put $20. Just put $20 away. Just put it in your 403B account, put it in your 401k, and just do that every paycheck. And then when you start to look at your statement and you see, hey,
It's
it's growing, then that encourages you to put more money in it. And you grow, you have that, you have the habit of putting the money, and you stop missing it. And then you just keep putting it in there.
But does it have anything to do, because, you know, when you think about we as Africans, because the one thing that has always been sensitive, and I'm sure growing up, we never sat down and talked about money at the dinner table.
Correct.
So from a cultural standpoint, because as Africans, that it's always been taboo.
Yeah.
But when you look at the Asian culture, when you look at any other culture, that has never been an issue, because for them, they've understood. I remember my mom was telling me about her Asian boss who would go with their 5-year-old child. We go to the bank, had taught them how to write checks, sign the check, and they're able to do the balancing of the sheet. So when you talk about telling young people, of course, we don't want to keep money. All the money is ours. But when you're how do you change their mindset from a cultural standpoint, from a culture we never talked about money? Because when you think about it, I remember my dad shouted, money does not grow on trees. But you're like, see, expand further. Help me understand, because a lot of us don't have a good relationship with money. Don't understand.
It's just something that we have to do. I came here 25 years ago. I didn't, let me tell you, I cashed in my pension in Kenya to bring it over to pay my school fees. So I didn't come here on a scholarship.
Right.
I brought that money over here, and then in time, thank God, I got all those the assistantships and all to push me forward.
Mm-hmm.
So at the end of the day, I had nothing.
Right.
I didn't have money in Kenya. So I had to tell myself, I'm not going to stay here all these years and work and go home with nothing.
Yes.
Okay? I have to think about it that way. You know,
So you were
I don't
compelled,
have a-
really.
yeah,
You motivated
I
yourself.
don't have a rich parent who's
Yeah.
going to leave me money.
Yeah.
In any case, who's leaving money anymore? She's no money to me. So I think the motivator is no one is leaving money for you. Okay? So you have to do it yourself. And you have to start small,
Yes.
but you need to do it, because what are you going to show after you worked for 20 years and you're almost retiring and you have nothing? Because I know retirement at home is a very sad thing.
Yes. So when you have nothing, yeah.
Yeah.
When many people
Many things are still looking, to you. I'm sure even now there's still some responsibility that you.
Or where they think they're going to start a business
And I
in their
don't
60s.
have a whole lot of money,
Yes.
but I can live on it.
Yes.
Got it.
I can live on it.
Yeah.
So more financial literacy.
But you bring up an important point, not only encouraging people to do it, but then show them.
Yeah, because
the
the problem
impact-
is the tool.
The impact of compounding interest.
Yeah.
Okay. And the impact of time, the value, time, the added value of the expanse of time that passes, what you can save when you're 20, if you can save that $20 versus having to save maybe $400 when you're 40.
Yeah.
You've missed out on the compounding
Of that.
value of that 20 years, which would have made a huge impact and difference.
Even though we don't have the discussions around the table as much about finances, the great equalizer is social media.
Yeah.
Because right now you have teenagers teaching other teenagers how to increase money.
Yeah.
Looking at young bloggers, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, who are actually showing other Gen Zs, Gen Alpha, how to invest, where to put your money, how to find a place to live. To that point, I mean, when you think of people who are coming to this country who know nothing,
And they may not have relatives.
and they don't have relatives, and they don't know what is happening where it is. It's as simple as, I mean, and somebody has to tell you, but it's as simple as going on the internet. Caveat, not everything on the internet is correct. However, if you use discernment and wisdom, if you go, for example, let's say you're moving to a new city. So for example, when I was moving to New York, I did not know anyone in that city. The people who I knew had long left and whatnot. It's like, how do I find an apartment? How do I put together my resources? What did I do? I joined Facebook groups of people who were moving to the city. And then they have them for people of all income brackets, people coming from different cultures. There's a lot of groups online and social groups that actually give each other tips. The diaspora, Kenyan diaspora, are really good at this. Just basically African diaspora are really good at forming communities online and in WhatsApp groups. So it's talking to friends, talking to family. Hey, do you know a group of people who? And then they can give you the tips. When you come here, go to this neighborhood, don't go to that neighborhood. Look for houses here, don't look for houses there. If a broker tells you this and this, they're lying to you. Don't be lied to, do X, Y, and Z. How do you make your little pennies spread? Literally, there are groups and influencers and content creators. I actually was following a content creator, for example, who she's a housemaid in Dubai. And basically all you do is you follow her day where she tells you how she got her job, what she's doing, how she serves her family, how, you know, all the way to somebody who is saying for investors and for people who, the current generation where the interest rates are so high, are you really going to get a home? So what does your investment look like?
And I think something that we talked about earlier on is just be ready to kind of have that shift of mind. Because again, the trouble that we find ourselves for a lot of people, Africans who come to the US in this environment, we come from a very, cyclic society, if I may look at it that way, where there's a lot of support around you and whatnot. But there's also the idea that certain professions are for certain genders. Oh, the men can't do this, the women can't do this, or this is just for the women. I think one thing that somebody coming to the US or even another country for that matter, just have that open mind that what your goal is to earn a living while you pursue that goal that you want, and in that path, do whatever it takes.
Yeah.
Do whatever it takes.
Absolutely.
Also, when people are coming here, Sarah talked about like getting in groups. I mean, you are new in this place. You sometimes maybe you don't know where to start. I want to encourage people. If you used to go to church, find a church when you get to the US. Find a church so that people can know you.
Yes.
Don't be going on the internet only. You know, Bethlehem Baptist Church.
Yes.
Go to a church where people are, where you can get to meet some
People
real people face
to face.
Let them know you.
Yes.
So that when you have a problem,
Yeah.
you have real people that you can talk and help them. If you are a Muslim, go to a mosque. Whatever it is, whatever group that you go to, find them here.
But I
You start,
go ahead.
No, I was just going to say you start to build a community around yourself.
But also, apart from churches, I think also when you think about Africa, because when you look at your government, we're so fearful of the government, people don't realize that actually, if you go to your embassies, I can speak for Kenya, like the Kenyan embassy here, they've changed their, they've become a lot more warm and friendly. They have a lot of resources. Because if you all look at your passports, what are you supposed to do when you go to any foreign country? If
Register.
How many of us have registered?
Yeah.
You know, those are things that we should stop overlooking. And that's something that I learned. Like, I was fortunate when I came. My sister gave me a book from the State Department, and it's called Welcome to America.
Okay.
And it breaks down just the conversations we're having, everything that's very important for you as an immigrant. When it comes to the rules, the regulations, it talks about your credit. So having that kind of knowledge, but even we need to be encouraging our people, don't shy away from the embassy. What fascinates me sometimes is, as Kenyans, we'll follow all the rules as Americans. But the minute we go to the Kenyan embassy, we go back to default setting. We're impatient. We are going back to real local thinking. And I'm like, you can't just pick and choose. But I want to say the embassy, you'll be very surprised how much information that they can give you. But there's also the group of people whereby, I don't know if you've interacted with them, there's that group of African whereby if it is not Mrs. Oyungo who has spoken it, everything else any of us would be saying is a lie. So I don't know if you've interacted, because you also, there's so many times you're like, you've practically spoon-fed somebody. And they will just look at you and they'll say, but I was talking to Kamau, and Kamau has been under the table, but Kamau's advice is better than what you're telling them. Because that's also another, you find we've wasted more time not believing, because I always feel we struggle with a lot of trust issues amongst.
You also don't share. One thing that I noticed when I first came here is that the people who've been here are not very forthcoming with
Guidance.
just guidance. You know, you're a young man, you like to party. I like partying or whatnot, and you know, nobody is telling you, hey, yes, you're partying, but you're working hard. I worked hard too. But as you work hard, these are the things that you need to do, or these are some of the things you need to think out about, which were probably not in your peripheral. We can do you favors.
Earlier, someone had mentioned mindset.
Yes.
Your mindset determines the people you surround yourself with.
Correct.
So if you are here and you're saying, I have come here to do something, to build a life, then surround yourself with people and with opportunities and looking at resources that help you build a life that can stand up. If you come, you will find plenty of people who show you the easy way to do things, to take the shortcuts under the table. It may seem good now, but think about what happens when you hit your full potential and you've got some really bad paperwork or some really shady dealings or whatever in your past. And leave alone in your past, even in your present. What happens when you take a shortcut that is easy now, but that lands you deported or in prison or just with your reputation ruined? So just have that mindset that says, this is what I'm here to do. This is what I'm here to build. Let me find people who will help me achieve that, even if it's a harder path.
Yes. Yeah, the shortest way, people have to learn that the shortest way is not always the best. In fact, it's rarely the best.
Of course.
If there's a prescribed way of doing things, you're probably better off following that.
Isn't it human nature?
It is human
Because
nature.
you know, you're in the medical field.
Yeah.
The brain is the most powerful and most laziest organ in the world.
There
True.
is
You
that.
can correct me.
There is that.
And so the brain likes comfort,
Yes.
and the brain never forgets. So when you think about you've indulged in that cake, and then for a whole year you've not eaten,
Yeah.
eat that cake. The brain will remember. So no matter the willpower, so it's also a lot of those things we have to remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we have to break some bad habits.
Yes.
Is basically.
And basically what it is.
We have to retrain our minds.
Yeah.
You know, you're talking about the whole, the mindset is important, the trust issues, you know. And if you're surrounding yourself with people you can't trust, like it can't be everybody that you can't trust.
Yeah.
And, you know, I prefer to think that people are innately decent.
Yes, that's true.
And
If,
I don't
if they
think,
see that you're a hardworking person, if they see that you are also appearing to be this person that is trustworthy.
yeah.
But if you are also looking like you are not quite,
You're shifty.
you know, then you will find it hard to find friends because people are busy here.
People are busy.
Time.
If you were to have one thing that, you know, kind of encapsulate your life here through your profession, education, and now retiring, what would be that one thing?
I think focus.
Yeah.
Have your faith in God. Do not forget where you came from. Don't get lost in these things. And then just listen. Don't ignore things. Be still. Have some time for yourself to think, even as you talk to other people.
Yeah.
Don't be so always in such a hurry that you miss everything or think that you're the only person who knows. There are other people who know also.
And that comes to the end of The African for this episode. I hope you will enjoy this, and we hope also that there's some lessons that we have articulated here that anybody watching this can learn from. This is our lives and this is our stories. Yours may be different, but when we know that when we share ours, you may learn from something from it. And please subscribe to our GraphClic channel.
Likamwisi pasio ya mona kiaza komemayo yonakatidi likamwisi yo awana maboko na biso esengo